Throughout NBA Finals history, after the series is tied at 1 apiece, the team that wins Game 3 goes on to win the series 80% of the time. And the Indiana Pacers just won Game 3 in convincing fashion. As Hallie had his best game of the series, they defended Shea significantly better than they did in the first 2 games, and both TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin brought their A games. Honestly, scratch that. They brought their A+++ games. The Pacers aren't supposed to win this series, but this is Indiana. After getting kind of blown out in Game 2, their previous Game 1 was called an anomaly, something you would think people would have stopped doing with the Pacers at this point. But here we are, and now not only are the Pacers in control of this series, they are in the driver's seat. Everyone and their mother said this is OKC's title to lose, and the odds of that are looking higher and higher. They are in some serious trouble. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. So, for our 3 key questions going into Game 3, can Tyrese Haliburton get in the fucking paint? Or can he at least create some separation off of the dribble? Either or, they're pretty much directly connected. Actually, all 3 of these questions are double questions, so it's really 6. But is J-Dub ready to show up? And if so, can Indiana survive something like that? And then finally, will we see more double bigs or less Thomas Bryant? They were directly connected in that game too, so I don't know. What's going to happen with the big man rotation? But with that said, let's get into this first quarter. Indiana had a fairly rough start offensively out of the gate in this one, as their offense was coming from pretty much Pascal Siakam exclusively, and all of it pretty much exclusively from the mid-range. He hit 3 of 4 of his mid-range shots early on, 2 of them coming out of the post over SGA off of a switch. It's good that he was hitting these shots, but not good for Indiana's offense that he was being relied on so much and from the range that OKC wants them shooting from anyways. Meanwhile, OKC started out hot primarily thanks to Chet Holmgren, who finishes the quarter with 13 points, taking the ball coast to coast for a lefty floater, running a picture-perfect pick and roll with J-Dub, as well as getting to the line, which is why OKC ended the quarter with over 30 points. Before that, Indy actually did a pretty damn good job on defense outside of the Chet stuff. The other big advantage OKC got was Lou Dort hitting all 3 of his first quarter 3-point attempts, despite 2 of them being really well contested. It looks like the on version of Lou Dort has showed up today. What was most important in this quarter, in my opinion, is how Haliburton looked. At first, through Indy's struggles, he again really could not handle the contact and get inside the arc, but he ended up getting a paint touch, albeit a tough one, a deep floater, but he's so damn good at these and he's in such a good rhythm that I'd call this a good shot and a win for his driving game. But then the next possession, he got Indiana out in transition as he gets the steal, wraps it around his back before throwing it to the trailing Obi Toppin for the layup. A little under 2 minutes later, he hit a pull-up 3-pointer and he finished the quarter with 5 points, 4 assists, 0 turnovers on 2 of 3 shooting. This is what you would like to see from him early. He also did sub out in the first at the very end, which isn't his usual rotation, but I think that this was perhaps being done so that he could check into the second quarter earlier while Shea continues to sit on the bench. But OKC leads 32-24. I feel good about Indy after this one, even with that 8-point deficit, though I said something similar in the second game, so a lot of it is contingent on how this second quarter goes. Indiana lost Game 2 at the start of the second quarter in the minutes where both Hallie and SGA were sitting. It was imperative that they win these minutes, or at the very least don't dig themselves into a larger hole this time around. And both TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin made damn sure that that's exactly what would happen. Honestly, how can you not love TJ McConnell? Here, he steals it off of the inbound, finds Siakam, who misses the three at the top of the key, but then TJ gets the offensive rebound and tip passes it to Mathurin for the layup. He later finds Nesmith on a cut, steals it off of the inbound again, and throws it off of Case and Wallace to keep it Indiana's possession. He also was breaking down the defense and getting to the paint pretty much with ease. Here, McConnell gets the advantage on Wallace. He finds Mathurin in the corner, who hesitates, but he hits the three-pointer anyways. And just like that, without Halliburton on the floor, Indiana has made it a 1-point game. By this point, Indy had won the no Hallie SGA minutes by 7 points, and they held an 18-0 advantage in bench points. OKC managed to stop the bleeding when Shea checked in. While he wasn't hitting jumpers and has overall not put up dominant scoring numbers, just 12 points on 11 shots, he was distributing and getting to his spots on the drive rather easily. His processing was especially impressive. Here, Hallie is way over helping off of Isaiah Joe to double SGA. I seriously do not know why you would help one pass away off of OKC's best shooter. He also left Joe open again the next possession after flying by him on a pretty telegraphed pump fake, but luckily his comfort on the offensive end continued and made his defensive deficiencies well worth it. He once again got to his floater super comfortably, this time hitting 2 of them in the quarter, and towards the end of the second, in an excellent display of his control, Halliburton ever so slightly gets Wallace with the pass fake at the top of the key. He squares up the three-pointer and nails it, which takes the lead back for Indiana. After both guards checked in, both teams mostly traded buckets, but Indy would get the last laugh as the quarter ended as it began, with their bench leading the way. TJ McConnell from the right corner of the free throw line pulls up and nets the shot. This gives Indiana the 4-point advantage going into the half. TJ and Mathurin were huge. Pascal Siakam and his rim protection as a small ball 5 was huge. Toppin made a bunch of great passes, especially a bunch of jump passes, and Hallie looks comfortable offensively. Indy is also getting more paint touches after getting just 9 total field goal attempts in the restricted area in Game 2. They have 10 in the first half of this game, and both teams have exactly 28 points in the paint. They won the non-Hallie minutes, and Hallie is doing well in his own right, so I think things are looking up. Indiana is up 64-60. The third quarter was a fairly uneventful one for both teams, honestly, as the pace slowed down dramatically. Neither team turned the ball over too much, and with the game played pretty much in the half court, it was OKC that gained the advantage, but not by much. Primarily, this was thanks to J-Dub having a big quarter scoring-wise, hitting 2 middies and getting a tough finish on the drive at the very start of the first, giving OKC an 8-0 run to open. Miles Turner, who had a really rough go of it in the first half, had some buckets early. But I've only got 2 real clips to show you from this quarter. This one is big because, holy shit, Hallie just drove, and he hung in the air, and he finished through contact at the rim over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This was huge for him because we've been looking for a shot exactly like that from him all series. He once again made a great read off of the ball and stole it from Shai, trying to get away from the double team. But as far as that second clip, the play before this, Jalen Williams would find Chet for an and-one dunk on the cut, and then he hits a pull-up fading 3 at the top of the key off of a nice dribble move, which gave him just enough space to elevate over Nesmith to give OKC the 5-point lead going into that fourth quarter. They lead 89-84. Ending the quarter strong there felt pretty big, so Indiana needs to open this fourth with an answer. Once again, Mathurin and McConnell played like the dynamic duo off of the bench that they have been throughout this game. They immediately got a pair of driving layups each. And somehow McConnell managed to get his third inbound steal of the game, which this one is actually probably the most perplexing. Caruso just throws it right to TJ on the inbound, and he immediately lays it up. This is actually the first time that he scored it himself, and he had to go up quickly because Caruso almost recovered. But seriously, how do you allow something like this to happen 3 times? That is nuts, and it's also indicative of OKC's overall issues with turnovers in this game. Benedict Mathurin also continued scoring the ball, with the most impressive element of this game from him being his pull-up jump shooting. It was all middies other than this one, but here he hits a pull-up three on the right elbow. He's just truly been unconscious in this game. Meanwhile, for OKC, when Shai checked in, he looked really rough. I said to Rudy as we were watching in the third that I didn't think Shai would score under 30 in this series, and I guess I jinxed him. He had a blatant travel with very little defensive pressure, and he couldn't generate space for his shot nearly as effectively. He scored just 3 points in the fourth quarter on 3 field goal attempts. With him looking rough, Hallie hitting yet another fuck you three-pointer at the top of the key, and Mathurin and McConnell keeping up their momentum, I felt really good about Indiana from here. I felt even better after Toppin got the putback dunk after Hallie missed the bank-in attempt on the floater. Indiana now has a 7-point lead. OKC's offense without Shai carrying them fell apart real quick. J-Dub could not find his shot again. That third was really the most comfortable he's looked in this entire series, but that did not carry over into the fourth. And Chet got blocked by Miles Turner twice, one on a three, and then after he got his own offensive rebound, blocked on the driving layup he attempted right after it. In the final 2 minutes, SGA missed a mid-range pull-up, and Hallie found Siakam with the look-ahead pass on the break. He finished it, and that was basically the nail in the coffin. Indiana wins 116-107, a huge win for the Pacers, as, again, teams that win Game 3 after going up 1-1 win the series 80% of the time in NBA Finals history. As for some notes on the Indiana Pacers, first things first, I owe a huge apology to Benedict Mathurin. I apparently used the word unplayable to describe him after Game 1, as a bunch of Pacers fans were very happy to tell me about on Twitter, as is your right, as is the way that this works. I understand that. I regret saying that. That's definitely an overreaction. I just personally thought that his inconsistent jump shot and his tunnel vision would kill him against their defense, as he isn't very good. He's not a great ball handler, and when he makes passes, they're often hasty and questionable, and again, the jumper is inconsistent. But in this game, he was making his moves so damn quick that it didn't matter. There was very little opportunity to steal the ball. He did very little dribbling, was just super efficient with everything that he did. I knew that he was a great cutter and finisher. I had no doubts about that aspect of his game, and that was certainly the most significant area where he got his scoring from, but his jump shot was on today. He hit all 3 of his mid-range pull-ups, a catch-and-shoot corner 3 off of like a hesitation, like a pump fake, not pump fake, not pump fake, and then he went up with it anyways. And then he also hit that pull-up 3 on the elbow that I highlighted in the footage. But all of these jump shots, every single one of them felt huge, either for the momentum of the game or for like keeping their head above water in moments where the offense was kind of stagnating. That's when he hit a lot of these shots. 27 points in 22 minutes, barely missed at all. Like, really hard to say anything negative about this. This has got to be the best game of Benedict Mathurin's career, especially given this context. And yeah, I was very, very wrong about him after that Game 1. TJ McConnell is just so good, while being like having significant weaknesses in certain areas, but it just doesn't matter, because the things that he does well, he does so consistently. And when he does the things that he does well above and beyond his standard, then you get a particularly loud TJ McConnell performance. And he got that today, as he had 10 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals. Remember, 3 of them being inbound steals, and he did that in just 15 minutes of action. I cannot overstate enough how much those two and their combined play is the reason that they managed to win this game. But that's not all, because Tyrese Halliburton was a lot more comfortable, far more comfortable than he's been in the first 2 games of this series. In fact, he hit the game winner after Game 1, which kind of put a bandage on top of the criticism that he was going to get for otherwise having a pretty bad game up until that point, relative to the standard that he set in the Eastern Conference playoffs. However, he's basically been bad almost this entire series. up until this game. And a lot of that was the fact that he was hunting for his shot early and making the defense play him more honestly as a result. His 3-ball was on. That's a huge thing because just simply shooting over OKC's defense was something that I knew he would have in his back pocket, but he really didn't in that game too. His floater was super reliable, and that was something that he just was not getting into basically at all in that game too, basically at all in the first game either. Like, it's not as great as getting to the rim for a layup like he did on that one Shea layup, but he's a damn good floater range shooter. So if he can get to his spots there in rhythm consistently, then that's still awesome. And then, of course, his passing was chef's kiss, as it always is. Miles Turner was much better in the second half after another rough first half. Chet killed him early on that matchup, but only early, which is the same thing that happened in Game 5. He ended up finishing the game with 5 blocks, and his ability to be around the rim on defense, which is something that I've highlighted as a big reason why Miles has just not been that effective defensively in this series and in these playoffs as effectively as he could be. Well, you see the results here. He reaps the benefits, he gets the 5 blocks, and yeah, he looked dominant on that end in the second half of this game when they really needed that. Pascal Siakam's rim protection as a small ball 5 is so huge for this team, and I would say that's definitely like the single most underrated element of this team. We saw 3 Thomas Bryant minutes in this one. I think we're done with that going forward. Siakam and Obi as your big men. You still have a lot of size and length, especially when you contrast that to OKC going small. But Siakam is easily averaging over a block per game in this series. Did he have 2 in this one? Let me double check. No, he only had 1, but the 1 stood out, and I know that he had, let me just real quick since it does not take me long, he had 2 in Game 2, and he had 1 in Game 1. So 4 blocks across 3 games, and I think literally all of them were when he was playing the center position, and that element is awesome. And then just his standard offense, pretty regular Pascal Siakam scoring game, really got the offense going early in the mid-range as basically nothing else the Pacers were doing was working. So good of him to keep them above water during those lulls. That is the type of thing where it's like, yes, you're still losing in these minutes, but you're not losing by as much as you would, and it results in the long run in getting a win because he was keeping their head above water a lot of the times. Yeah, basically the only moment where Shea looked comfortable, I wouldn't say the only moment. This is a note that Rudy added, but when Thomas Bryant was on the floor, Shea went at his ass aggressively, and that's the reason why we did not see him for long, and I'm not surprised by that. I just Thomas Bryant is cool. Thomas Bryant's a cool player. I don't mind him getting some spot minutes, but I'm not surprised to see him not playing much in this one. The Pacers were kind of rough in that floater range outside of Halliburton. Siakam and Miles Turner in particular missed quite a few from there, but they still overall scored way more points in the paint than they did in Game 2, which was easily the biggest reason they lost that game. They had 16 more points in the paint in total, and they shot 14 for 23 in the restricted area after going 5 for 9 in Game 2, which is despicable. They lost the rebounding battle again, but they didn't do it by as large of a margin as Game 2, and there's also obviously not as dramatic of a swing because the Pacers overwhelmingly won the rebounding battle in Game 1, but OKC narrowly won it in Game 2, and they narrowly won it here again. Didn't end up mattering this time around, though. Obi Toppin didn't bring the jump shot today, as he did not bring it in Game 2. But unlike Game 2, he said, okay, jumper's not dropping. I'm going to contribute in some other ways. He had some really big drives. He had that putback dunk late in the game that felt like a huge staple. Like, it's hard to say you had the nail in the coffin with 4 minutes left in the game, but the momentum was very much heading Indiana's way anyways. And then he got that putback dunk, and it really felt like they had it from there. He had a couple of different drives as well, a few nice passes, even if he did have just 1 assist. I feel like he had 2 or 3, maybe even 4 different hockey assists in this game, and definitely at least 2 of them off of some really nice jump passes. Ben Shepherd and Aaron Nesmith are really the only guys who didn't do a great job. Even still, their defense was great, and they were throwing multiple different bodies at Shea in this one. Definitely more diversity in terms of the defenders that he was seeing, which probably played a part in the fact that their defense on SGA in general was great. Hallie had a few slip-ups with Isaiah Joe playing off ball, but otherwise, he was a beast off of the ball, and he intercepted it from Shea on like 2 or 3 different occasions where you could tell that he knew the double was there, and he knew that Shea was going to have to pass it, and he was like, okay, bet. I'm keeping my head on a swivel. I'm staying between my man, and the ball, but I'm also going to be right here in the perfect position to steal that the moment the ball is in the air, and he timed it perfectly. Definitely at least for 2 of them, but I think there was a 3rd one in there as well. Their full court defensive pressure was felt, and it wasn't so much in game 2, but this time Shea seemed really gassed, and once again it was a low assist game for the Thunder. OKC had just 16 assists and 17 turnovers, so the Pacers won the turnover battle pretty convincingly in this one, even if the actual fast break offense wasn't that dramatically different. But for the OKC Thunder, while both of them were great for only 1 quarter, Chet in that first and Dub in that third, you still got 46 total points out of them, and you lost the game, which typically speaking, when you're getting 20 plus out of both of those guys, that's a win. In fact, I think only one of their losses in these playoffs, other than this one, featured a 20 piece from the both of them, and they were both rather inefficient. The issue this time, though, Shea wasn't great, and they got very little in terms of production from their bench. Indiana had 49 bench points. OKC had just 17. They countered Indiana's full court pressure in game 2 by having some higher ball screens, but I didn't feel like I saw that this much this time around. That or Indiana just simply improved the screen navigation. It's probably some combination of both of them. But either way, Shea was stuck in place a lot of the time. He was in an uncomfortable position a lot of the time, and it's hard to do that. Indiana freed Hallie up a lot in this one with some off-ball stuff, like he would often throw it up the court to whoever to bring it up if he faced any kind of pressure in the backcourt, and then he would come back to the ball after he had created some space without the ball in his hands, without taking the constant beating from his defender. Letting Shea feel the defense all the way up the floor will naturally wear him down. So I think they should try and do something similar to what Indy did in this one in game 4. Chet Holmgren. He had 20 in this one. However, he had 13 of them in the first. So basically for 3 quarters, he was bad. Chet is a fake shooter. I'm calling it. I'm so fucking tired of it. At this point, I just don't believe the shot's going to go in when he takes a 3-pointer. He has an incredibly flat release, and he went 0 for 6 from outside in this one. Yuck. Lou Dort hit 4 of his 5 3-pointers. You can't ask for more than that. That's as good as it's going to get. And you also, of course, did not get the Caruso and Aaron Wiggins game. That's his name. His name's not Andrew. Yeah, he didn't get the big scoring performances from both of those guys, and seemed like it was TJ and Matherin's turn this time around, which makes sense. Role players typically play better at home, but, honestly, this game and that game too just feels like it further illustrates the point that everyone is highlighting now these days, which is that the game is just decided by role players more than it has ever been. And Matherin and TJ decided this one. Last game, Caruso and Wiggins did. But how worried should OKC be, and does this change my series prediction? I think they're at basically like an 8 out of 10 on the should be worried scale, because you obviously can't really lose this game 4. It has historically been proven to be possible as of recent. I don't know if you heard about it, but the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. However, that's only happened once, and I wouldn't want to bank on it happening again. So you should be pretty fucking worried. At the same time, I'm only going an 8, and I would honestly, I almost went with a 7 because I do feel very good about their ability to win that game 4. I predicted that this series would be tied up after 4 games, and I still feel that way. I still have OKC winning, even with the odds being what they are. I also think it's a little basic to just simply look at that historical odds. It also doesn't highlight the difference in era. And this Thunder team has not lost 2 games in a row in these playoffs. In fact, they have pretty much dominated any time they lost a game. They only lost a game back-to-back twice in the regular season, so I don't expect them to fumble this game 4. Again, same thing I felt about them going into that game 2. They're too good to just get bitched like this back-to-back. I don't think it's going to happen again. So my prediction does remain OKC winning the series, but I'm going to change that prediction from 6 games to 7. I originally had Thunder in 6, probably closer to 5 than 7, but 6 felt very right. 6 doesn't even feel right anymore. I really think this is going to come down to the wire. It's honestly starting to feel more and more like this series can go either way, and honestly, it can. My belief in the Thunder is just so persistent that I can't deny it yet, but can't sit here and act like I'm not worried for the Thunder. I'm excited either way because this does mean that at the very least, we are not getting yet another gentleman sweep in the finals in the 2020s. The Lakers beat the Heat in 5, Denver beat the Heat in 5, and Boston beat Dallas in 5. There's only been 2 series in the 2020s that were worth a damn, and that's when they went at least 6 games. I was going to lose my shit if we had another severely lopsided final series because it's not good for the NBA. Not because it's the Pacers and Thunder in the finals. It's not good when you get one team that's going to kick the absolute shit out of the other team. And luckily this time around, I was right to bet on Indy making this a series. Thank God for that. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad they won this game because no one wants to watch a video when the Thunder win the game, but that's okay. Yeah. Bye. Thank you to Rudy. He edited. Bye.